Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Snow White. We're going to talk about Snow White.
It won't die. It just won't go away.
So here we are, how many months after the movie fell flat on its face, and we've got Gal Gadot coming out originally saying that the reason, or part of the reason the movie failed was because of the pressure to speak out against Israel. Right? It wasn't, I guess, apparently political enough. I don't know. Then she walked it back.
Yeah, but she's managed to stay out of it. She's managed to stay out of the politics of it this whole time. And now she was doing an interview with amateur journalists on the autism spectrum in Israel for one of their TV networks. And it got brought up. Now, she did say nice things about Rachel Zegler, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
But she basically blamed the failure of the film on the pressure to speak out against Israel in Hollywood. And it's like, no, that's not why it failed. But, you know, she since walked it back because people have called her out. And she did it really classy, but still, I was like, no.
So we're going to talk about it. Look, I mean, it's very, very simple. The reason the movie failed at the box office was it looked like shit.
And Rachel Zegler.
That's it. It looked like shit and Rachel Zegler. And right now, you know, to get people to go to the theater, it's got to be something pretty damn amazing.
Right. And it's just, I mean, between the CGI dwarfs and Rachel Zegler, that was, and then I'm sorry, I love you, Gal Gadot, but Gal Gadot, how you say her name, Gadot, isn't it? I love you, but your acting was not very good. Even though your song was very entertaining. I'll give you that.
I still haven't seen it. You guys watched it. God bless you for watching it. But yeah.
It wasn't as bad as I expected. That being said, doesn't make it like super good either. But it wasn't as bad as I expected. It wasn't terrible. But I can totally understand why it failed at the box office. Let's put it that way.
So let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. You'll get a woohoo if you do.
Woohoo.
So let me see here. Here's her original quote, right? So you're gonna have to walk me through this.
Yeah. So what happened was she's doing this interview and they asked her if she was angry about like how she's upset about it. And she said that she wanted to say she really enjoyed making this film. And then what the interviewer said, you know, even with Rachel Zegler too. And she clarified, she said, yes, even with Rachel Zegler, because she said that we had fun, we laughed, we talked. And she did not say anything bad about Zegler. She refused to say anything bad about Zegler. But she said she was convinced it was going to be a huge hit, and then it wasn't. And then the part she said that got everybody upset was that she basically said it caused Hollywood, and like any other industry, there was a pressure for Hollywood to speak against Israel. And that's where, go back up, that one quote underneath it, she said, I can always explain and try to give people in the world a context about what's happening and what the reality is here. But in the end, people decide for themselves. I was disappointed that the movie was greatly affected by that and didn't do well at the box office.
I don't think that had
That is not why.
Effect on, if anything, I mean, this is what's so weird. I mean, you know, she's talking about pressure in Hollywood to speak out against Israel.
That is true at some level.
True on some level, but also that whole situation has divided Hollywood because remember, guys, there are a lot of Jewish people working in Hollywood. Like a lot of Jewish people. Like it's probably 75% Jewish executives, directors. Like, I mean, seriously. Yes. So, you know, I'm just saying, like, they're not all going to speak out against Israel.
No, and I know a lot of people in Hollywood, it's concerning because they have a lot of people in there, and there's all these people like Zegler who are very politicized, politically pickled, and everything's through a political lens, and they're just like shooting their mouth off, and they made it kind of a witch hunt, which isn't good. But that is not why the movie failed. Yes, there were some people that were going to boycott the film because Gal Gadot being Israeli. That is true. Yeah. But a lot of people didn't go to the film because Rachel Zegler wouldn't shut her damn mouth.
Yes.
First, we had the whole debacle where she was at D23 and she basically said that she was girl bossing it, and you didn't need a man to save her, and there wasn't going to be a true love's kiss, and it wasn't going to be about a prince. It was going to be about, her being a leader, and it was, weird about, different stuff and how dated it was, and the prince was a stalker and all this other crap. She was making these comments there. That immediately got people like, what? And then they were already upset because you're doing a Walt Disney's legacy movie, what started it all, and you're sitting there pissing all over it and saying you're changing everything about it. People were not happy.
No, I mean, it really isn't. It isn't rocket science as to why it didn't perform, right?
And then she wouldn't stop. Then she put about Free Palestine, in her bio, and that led to Gal Gadot and her family having to have security guards hired by Disney because she was getting death threats from Rachel Zegler fans. And then, we could take your pick which one did it. Then she basically wished Trump supporters and Trump no peace, basically called them, I forget, if you go back to the other article I have, what she was referring to it as. So it was implied in her comments that if you voted for Donald Trump, you had a great sickness. You were foolish and patriotic and hateful, because apparently patriotic's bad too. And basically you just took more than half the audience and just told them to F you.
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong?
So, yeah. Take your pick, but it's almost all Rachel Zegler is why this movie failed.
Yeah, it was, they honestly, what does any of this have to do with Snow White? Like nothing, but I think Rachel Zegler being young, and I kind of like.
I think a lot of it's her being young, yes.
She's just young and dumb and completely pickled by the internet, and she's just acting like it's almost like they just like plucked a random Instagram influencer out of obscurity, say, here you go be in these multi-million-dollar tent poles. And I don't think she had the professional
I don't think she had
training to
obviously not compared to Gadot.
Given that a Disney executive actually flew all the way out to New York to slap her upside the head and be like, hey, could you stop because we got like hundreds of millions of dollars.
That was before she had the tirade about the Trump vote.
Yeah. And she's like, well, nobody's going to tell me what to do. I'm like, well, then your phone's not going to ring anymore, is it, sweetheart? That's, what I'm saying? Like, this is how it works. Yeah, you got to make your bosses happy.
She's not very smart. I think a lot of it is just, being young and idealistic and thinking that you have a platform, that you're more important than you are. And she's insufferable. So that had a lot to do with it. I think also people did not like CGI dwarves. They were uncanny valley creepy. I think that by the time it did finally come out, after being pushed back over and over, people just were like, oh, that hasn't come out yet. And it was a recipe for box office failure. Yeah. But it did not fail because people in the United States were against Israel. That's not why the movie failed. And people have called her out, and now she's kind of backpedaling on what she said. You have that.
So this is coming from, this is the latest. This is coming from Deadline. Gal Gadot clarifies Snow White didn't fail solely because of Israeli support, despite almost visceral fan response. So she said, following her appearance on the talk show The A-Talks, in which she said the Disney live-action remake was greatly affected by discourse around her and Zegler's opposing stances on the war, she said, I was honored to join an extraordinary interview with inspiring interviewers whose questions go straight to the heart. Okay, so she says this on Instagram. Sometimes we respond to questions from an emotional place. When the film came out, I felt that those who are against Israel criticized me in a very personal, almost visceral way. Well, she was, of course, in the armed forces, and that's how it works. They saw me first and foremost as an Israeli, not as an actress. That's the perspective I spoke from when I answered the question. Gadot continued, of course, the film didn't fail solely because of external pressures. There are many factors that determine why a film succeeds or fails, and success is never guaranteed.
Which she did say in the interview, too. She's like, hey, that's how it goes. She said, you win some, you lose some. She did add that to the end, but she never said that in the interview. She kind of was just like, there's a lot of pressure. And I think that might have even been why she said that, because the interviewer brought up Rachel Zegler. Yeah. And I think she was trying to, in a roundabout way, take some of the blame off Zegler for her Free Palestine comment. But at the same time, I'm like, one, it's Zegler's fault your movie failed. So it's really sweet of you to protect her. But, a lot of the reason why your movie failed is mostly her.
Yeah, people wouldn't even give it a chance at that point. And again, the dwarves looked awful, and people were
they looked terrible. I'm sorry.
Why are you remaking Snow White? That if there were ever hallowed ground at Disney, it would be Snow White. Like, don't even.
But hey,
don't even
thank
go
God Dopey could speak at the end. Oh, spoiler.
Oh my God.
Turns out he was the narrator the whole time.
And he says, #free Palestine.
No, he says, God bless us, everyone.
Oh my God. No, it was a disaster. I mean, seriously, like Disney anymore with these, Snow White especially, you could make a sitcom based on all the shit that happened around Snow White. Like you could just be like, oh my God, this is just a comedy of errors. It'd be like, what was the one? Well, I guess it didn't last very long. They had one show on HBO that was supposed to be making fun of Marvel and just
I never got to watch that.
Like one season, it was like, oh, it looks really good. And then it was like, yeah, it wasn't very good. But
there was like the producers where they're deliberately trying to make something suck, but everybody loved it. You know, like the Broadway musical. Like, you know, they're trying to make something that's terrible about Hitler and everybody loved it anyway. And it was the opposite. They're trying to make something good, but everybody hates it anyway.
I don't even know if they were trying to make something good. I think they were just trying to make something that made money. And that's the difference. Disney was trying to make something good.
Snow White will make money. Let's hear me out. Snow White will make money. It's Walt Disney's first thing. It started it all. It's legacy. Everybody loves Snow White. So we're going to take Snow White and we're going to make it for modern audiences and take everything out of it that made it Snow White good. Then we're going to find the most obnoxious little shit we can find to play the character and then give her a really, really bad haircut. And, you know, and what else can we do? No prince. Princes are bad. That's misogynistic. So we'll make him a bandit.
Make him a bandit.
And we can't hire dwarf actors because, you know, that's going to be too creepy and weird. And, you know, there's not enough talented dwarf actors in Hollywood, according to one of the dwarf actors in Hollywood. Yeah. So we're going to instead make them all CGI.
Yeah.
And we'll make them look really creepy.
It was just a really ill-conceived idea. So BuzzFeed has it too.
Oh my God.
Gal Gadot
what part of all of that they think was a good idea?
None of it. I can't believe it got greenlit. I mean, seriously, like if you're having a meeting at Disney and you're like, okay, well, which movies can we make live action adaptations of? And they're like Snow White, and it'd be like, hell no, that one.
Well, they should have. You should have stopped with let's make a live action adaptation. Slap. No, shut up. Next.
Yeah.
Because it's not working. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You have this. BuzzFeed has it. You said.
BuzzFeed. Yeah, Gal Gadot claims that Snow White was a huge flop because of pressure to speak out against Israel, and of course they're like, and I'm just not here for it. It's just like I can't believe BuzzFeed's still around. I just can't believe they're still around. But they're all running with it now. Like,
but are they trying to blame it on her and not Zegler?
Yeah, they're trying to blame it on Gal Gadot.
No one. Zegler, Rachel Zegler. If one of the two actresses were solely responsible, if you're gonna put the majority of the failure onto one person, Rachel Zegler is clearly the person who drove this movie into this shithole. It was already, people didn't want live action Snow White, which is part of it. But you took a bad situation and you threw kerosene on it. Yeah. You threw, gasoline on it. You put a bunch of paper and dried straw. You put it in a field that was dry as a bone and you threw a match in it. And that's what happened. Because it was you lit it on fire with Zegler. That was the single stupidest casting.
Yeah, it was done. It was a bad idea. It was a bad idea. It's just I mean, I don't know who. Well, I know the guy who was in charge of live action remakes got gone.
Well, he got demoted. I'm sorry. He stepped back to work on other projects, and now he's still producing a couple. But he's just he wanted to do his own things. Oh,
I love how that always happens.
That's always the story.
We never
fire shit canned or demoted.
Yeah, we don't fire people here. We just they're pursuing other passion projects. They don't have anything else lined up. They're moving.
Yeah, they never can tell you what the passion project is. Like it's not like they already have it going. It's like I'm going to go find my dream.
Yeah,
we're all dreaming yet. Stop making the live action remakes.
Oh God. All right, so there we go. This has turned into a nightmare for Disney. This is going to be right up there with like John Carter and all, Mars Needs Moms and all these other movies that were huge failures for Disney. Home on the Range.
This was more epic failure than those.
Because it was
Snow White.
It was Snow White. I mean, we're talking like one of the pinnacles of the Walt Disney Company. Like literally, this is the film that put Disney on the map as we know them. And they could have lost everything. They bet everything on this movie. And that could have been the end of Walt Disney in the 1930s. if this movie was a huge failure, and it wound up being groundbreaking and paved the way for everything that came after it. And then they turned it into this albatross of a clusterfuck.
You know, sorry to change this up for a second, but I have to laugh at this picture, TMZ. They went and tried to find a picture of Gal Gadot where she's not made up, so she looks more plain. Yeah. And then it's their premiere outfits, and they put up the next to Zegler, and she has all made up. Look how pretty I am. It's like, I just think it's funny. It's just funny to me. She's not the fairest of them all. I'm sorry.
All right, so we gotta wrap this up.
Yes.
Let's wrap this up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.
Attention, stupid humans. All orcs are evil, just like Gary Gygax and Professor Tolkien warned you. Series 1 of these orc enamel pins are on Kickstarter again for a very limited time. Pick your clan, join the Horde, and cause some mayhem. Go to badorcs.com. That's badorcs.com.